Good morning, everyone. Today I'm being given the forecast for December 8th through December 17th, and we'll be talking about some really cold weather really for much of the country this week. And we've got this really strong trough in place over the Northeast, and this northwesterly flow that's going to be continuing for not only this week, but maybe the rest of this month. So we'll be talking about that as well as snowfall over much of the mid-Atlantic for Monday. We have a couple of clipper systems moving through the Midwest early this week. And probably just as big of a story is the atmospheric river passing through much of the Northwest, delivering not only heavy rainfall, but also some heavy mountain snowfall over the Northwest. So we'll get to that. One of the things you'll see here on the screen is where I've created these arrows indicating the path of the jet stream. And what we've got here is very strong winds coming out of the west, southwest here, going over, let's say, Vancouver in Canada. And what it's doing there is it's delivering very heavy rainfall to that part of Canada. And those winds will be shifting south with time, delivering heavy rains to Seattle and points south in the next couple of days. But you can also follow this jet stream and its path through the Great Plains and into the southeast. And as it does so, we have this really cold air that will be pushing through the mid-Atlantic tomorrow. And at the same time, we have cyclogenesis over the central and southern Appalachians that will be delivering heavy snowfall on the order of 4 to 6 inches in some places through central Virginia as we get into, let's say, Monday afternoon. One of the things I wanted to discuss today was La Nina and how it so closely resembles what we're seeing with the jet stream today. You can see this blue line here coming out of the Pacific Northwest and extending down through the Great Plains and into the mid-Atlantic. And what this is showing is the general northwest flow here that comes in from the Pacific and dives into the middle part of the country and then extends back into the northeast. And it's very similar to the pattern that we're seeing now. One thing I want to clarify is a system like what we're seeing over the mid-Atlantic isn't something necessarily that accompanies this, but it does help to reinforce something like this if it does happen with cold air. And with that system over the mid-Atlantic tomorrow, much of this cold air is fueled by this pattern that we're seeing over the country. Over the coming days, we'll see these clipper systems move out of the northern Great Plains, and a lot of cold air will be accompanying it. And we have a shot later in the week of cold air that will be following one of these clipper systems that we'll be discussing. But this La Nina pattern seems to be well entrenched in the early part of December. And this jet stream doesn't show really any signs of weakening until maybe later this month. So what I'm showing now is the 500 millibar heights here, so at the middle part of the troposphere. And what we're seeing is that flow again from northwest to southeast. And we can see these lower heights extending down into the mid-Atlantic and much lower heights, of course, extending into the northeast. And that's kind of where you're seeing this maximizing effect of not only this northwest to southeast flow, but of, let's say, the delivery of colder temperatures from Canada into places like New York and Maine. Snow showers have occurred, let's say, late in the day Sunday, in places like Syracuse and Buffalo, New York. Much of that on the lighter side in comparison to previous lake effect snow events that we've seen recently, but snow showers nonetheless have been occurring during the day Sunday, and especially as you got into Sunday night over the Northeast. Now, as you look off to the west, you can see where temperatures are a bit warmer, right? We can see anywhere from 40s to 60s and 70s as you get down into, let's say, Phoenix, Arizona, portions of southern New Mexico. But in general, across the country, it's pretty cool overall. Even in, let's say, the Northwest here, where we have that heavier rain moving on shore, temperatures will be in the 40s and 50s, even in the valleys as this rain moves on shore. So a cold rain for most here as that atmospheric river pushes inland during the day Monday. and extending into, let's say, even the day Wednesday. This rain will be lasting for quite a long time. But the general thing here that I want to point out is that we do have these colder temperatures continuing to funnel out of Canada all the way down into the southeast early this week. What I wanted to show now is that recent snowfall, and this is according to the National Weather Service, some of the snowfall amounts that we received in parts of Virginia during the day Friday. You can see anywhere from 3 to as much as 6 inches of snow from Blacksburg to Lynchburg, extending northward into Lewisburg, West Virginia, and even Lexington. The reason I point this out is that this map is going to be very similar in terms of totals for the state of Virginia as we get into the day Monday. A lot of you will be receiving the same or nearly the same amount of snow that you saw on Friday. Now looking at the forecast map here for the Mid-Atlantic, we can see this cyclogenesis, this weak cyclogenesis, taking place early Monday morning over, let's say, the central and southern Appalachians here, and an area of snowfall developing over Kentucky and over spreading West Virginia very early in the morning. But that quickly spreads east over the state of Virginia, which will likely see the longest duration of snowfall from this event. But anywhere from, let's say, central portions of Kentucky into central portions of Virginia could receive some fairly moderate to heavy snowfall. And there's even some strong frontogenesis showing up in central Virginia, let's say around noon on the day Monday. The next thing I want to show here is the snowfall amounts that are predicted from this particular system. And you can see here, this is just one model, but this is one of the high resolution models. And what it's showing is anywhere from 3 to 4 inches through much of, let's say, southern West Virginia, extending as far east as places like Richmond or Petersburg. And in between, we'll probably have areas of 4 to 5 inches of snow. So not just in the Blue Ridge Mountains, but also in some of these valley areas, places like Lynchburg, Roanoke, eastward into Richmond and Petersburg. Some locations will pick up 5 inches of snow from this event. Okay, so the next thing I want to show here is the very heavy rainfall moving into Washington State and Oregon during the day Monday. And the thing about it is it's not going to stop on Monday. This is something that's going to continue for the next at least 72 hours. But the heaviest amounts, of course, are going to be occurring on the day Monday. Localized flooding can be expected here, anywhere from, let's say, the state of Washington down into northern Oregon. Some rainfall estimates of 6 to as much as 10 inches of rain in the mountainous regions here. So as we get into the Cascades, for instance, heavy amounts anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of rain can be expected. This looks like a very warm system overall, so mainly a rainfall event even in the higher elevations. But some locations that do pick up all snow here could see several feet from this system. And just to kind of reiterate that here, we can see on the map as we go to, let's say, the western part of Oregon, the western part of Washington, we can see this deep purple here and even some of these almost like this fire color, right, that we're seeing here with the yellows and oranges. This shows all up and down the west coast here of, again, the states of Washington and Oregon, anywhere from as little as 2.5 inches to as much as 5 to 6 inches of rain. And as you go further inland over the Cascades, again, those higher elevations could see 6+ inches of rain from this event. And of course, anybody that's watching this in Canada here, let's say in Vancouver, that region, much the same story for them. It looks like they'll be receiving rainfall from Sunday into Monday, mainly for that region, and that pushes further south with time as we get into, let's say, Monday afternoon and Tuesday for Oregon. So not only do we have this storm system over the Mid-Atlantic and over the Northwest, we also have these clipper systems that are moving through the Midwest as well. And there's going to be two quick hitters, really. We have one moving in, let's say, during the day Monday into Minnesota and Wisconsin that will deliver some light snow mainly to the region. And then following that, during the day Tuesday, there's another system that's moving in. And this one actually bring the heavier amount of snowfall along with it. And moving forward in time here, we can see that snowfall from the second clipper system move from, let's say, northern North Dakota through Minnesota and Wisconsin, and having some enhancement, some lake enhancement, let's say over the state of Michigan and also western Pennsylvania and western New York as we get into the day Wednesday. And as far as snowfall amounts from this system, anywhere from 6 to as much as 8 inches can be expected, let's say over northern North Dakota, northern parts of Minnesota into Wisconsin. A broader region of 3 to 6 inches, let's say, outside of that, extending down into, let's say, Minneapolis, over towards Madison, Wisconsin, and over much of Michigan here, 3 to 6 inches can be expected there. When with the lake enhancement, let's say in western Pennsylvania, western New York, again, another 4 to 6 inches for those folks coming up. So I do want to talk about the Northeast as well with these two clipper systems. We can see during the day Tuesday, this first system just kind of blowing through very quickly. And when it does so, we're going to see mainly snowfall in the higher ridges, so locations well over 1,000 feet here, 1,500 feet, that receive any snowfall at all. Much of the Hudson Valley will receive very little, if anything, from that first system, maybe a quick snow shower. If we get anything, more than likely it will be the second clipper system that moves through, let's say, during the day Wednesday. And we're looking at mainly, let's say, Wednesday afternoon for the Hudson Valley, places like the Capital District in Albany receiving snowfall, let's say Wednesday afternoon. And this includes much of western Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine as well from this second system. And as far as snowfall amounts, on the lighter side for many of us, there will be some lake enhancement off of, let's say, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. The Tug Hill Plateau region will likely receive the most from anywhere from 6 to 8 inches there. But if we get into the Hudson Valley and even Saratoga Springs, just that region there extending westward into Schenectady, anywhere from maybe a dusting to 1 to 2 inches of snowfall. There could be a dry slot here through the Hudson Valley that doesn't really give us anything in terms of snowfall from these two clipper systems. But again, this is just one model here. I think we will see at least a couple of snow showers from this event. But in general, what we'll be seeing is mainly higher elevation snowfall. You can see up here, let's say, in the northern high country of Vermont, the White Mountains of New Hampshire, again 6 to 8 inches there as well. And as we get into much of Maine, a general 1 to 3 inches of snow for much of the state. As you head north and east, over 5 inches of snowfall from these clipper systems. So now we're going to be looking at the jet stream here to kind of give an idea of what the remainder of the week is going to look like up ahead. And we can see this general northwest to southeast flow in the jet stream. And it beginning to dip with time as we head towards the day Friday. And we're actually looking at a very strong shot of cold Arctic air as we get into the day Friday over much of the Midwest and the Southeast. And again, we're talking about temperatures 20 to as much as 30 degrees below normal as we get towards the end of the week. And I want to show that now here on this particular map. We can see the cold air just pouring out of Canada as we get into the day Friday and into the day Saturday. Morning lows Saturday morning could be, again, 20 degrees below normal for much of the mid-Atlantic. And these cold temperatures will overspread not only the Great Plains, but into, let's say, Texas, extending eastward into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia as we get into the weekend. And you may be curious if this warm weather that we're seeing over the west, at least relatively speaking, associated with this ridge, will begin to propagate to the east with time. And some models are showing that as we move further out beyond 10 days. But again, being that far out, we can't say with certainty that that will happen. So we'll wrap it up there for this week. If you have any questions regarding La Nina, I would love to report on that further in the next video. One of my favorite things to discuss, and I think others would like to hear, is your accumulations of snowfall or rainfall. and report that in the comments. We can kind of share that with one another. I hope to build our base with time where we can actually create these snowfall maps or rainfall maps based on the viewership from these videos. But that is all for this week. Again, any other questions that you have, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next week.